So the infamous Joe Rogan is signing a new contract with Spotify. Controversial podcast host Joe Rogan signs a new deal with Spotify for up to a reported $250 million. Spotify has penned a new multi-year partnership deal with controversial podcast host Joe Rogan, whose enormous popular show will soon also be available on competing platforms, including YouTube and Apple Podcast. Spotify announced the renewed partnership in a post on the company's corporate blog Friday. Under a prior multi-million-dollar deal, the Joe Rogan Experience had been a Spotify exclusive since 2020. The Wall Street Journal, which first reported the new deal on Friday, estimates that the new contract was worth as much as $250 million over its multi-year term. It cited unnamed people familiar with the matter. The pact involves an upfront minimum guarantee in addition to a revenue sharing agreement based on ad sales, the newspaper reported. Over the years, Rogan has developed a huge audience who listens to his long, wide-ranging interviews with a variety of guests, including comedians, athletes, scientists, and conspiracy theorists. There's no script of what we're going to talk about, and it all just sort of happens in real time, said Rogan on Spotify's blog post. It's just an actual organic conversation with people enjoying themselves, which is something we all can relate to and something we all love to do. These conversations have changed the way I think about life immeasurably and continue to do so. The show is consistently Spotify's most popular podcast, but also a frequent cause of controversy for the company. Most notably, Spotify came under huge pressure in 2022 to drop Rogan over his anti-coronavirus vaccine comments and use of racial slurs, which some musicians, including Neil Young, pulling their music from the platform in protest. Okay, so this isn't like a very timely or even an incredibly substantive news story. I mean, I think it's probably a better deal for Rogan than the original one was in terms of viewer reach. Like, I think if his content's back on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, that'll help him immensely. I wanted to talk about this though because I used to like Joe Rogan, to be honest with you. I think many people had a Joe Rogan phase. His format is, I think, a pretty enticing format for podcasts, and it's pretty much being copied across the medium. But just having two people hit the record button and have two people just talk for a couple hours and see where it goes. Yeah, that's an appealing form. But his immense media influence also comes with immense responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility, that famous Spider-Man quote. And I don't think he's using his responsibility. I don't think he recognizes his responsibility, or he, recognizes it and doesn't care. I can't say, I can't read his mind, but he's gone off the deep end. To be blunt about it. He fell in with like the IDW, the Weinstein brothers, Jordan Peterson. He was friends with Alex Jones for a long time before that. But he's really become a part of that like right-wing conspiracy theory ecosystem. And it's not only tragic for him as a person, it's arguably devastating for his viewers, his listeners, because he can have an impact on the culture, on politics, that is very negative. when he pushes conspiracy theories about the coronavirus, or when he, does like the both sides between like Biden or Trump. Um, I'm trying to think of what else he's done. Um, he just says nowadays a lot of, I would say, pretty insane things, um, which he thinks, of course, are reasonable. Um, and that negatively affects the discourse. Um, and I don't think he's stupid. Um, Now, remember, he endorsed Bernie in 2016. So I don't think he's stupid. I don't think he's like necessarily, this inherently evil, bigoted piece of garbage. He seems like a pretty normal guy, as normal as like, a millionaire comedian can be. But he's fallen down that like ideology pipeline. He's part of that might be his age. Um, Part of that, as I said, is the crowd he's associated with. But he's really taken a turn for the worse. And it makes me ashamed, honestly, to say that I ever liked Joe Rogan. But this is just where we're at. I mean, right wing propaganda, right wing conspiracy theories. I mean, they're like mind viruses. I mean, they could spread easily and they can overtake people's minds over time without even the person fully realizing it. Or they realize it and they don't care. And, um, they're doing it for their own selfish gain or something to that effect. But like watching Joe Rogan's development over the years, like I said, does look like someone who, unbeknownst to himself, has fallen down the rabbit hole of right-wing ideology. And like I said, I don't think it's doing his listeners any good. I don't think it's doing the culture any good. And who knows where his trajectory is going from there. But as far as I'm concerned, at this point, he's a lost soul. And we should start ignoring him as a culture.